Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, show number 45. We're your hosts, Dave and
Vialet.
Our guest today is Hollister Rand. Hollister is an internationally renowned medium, author, and speaker. She provides specific messages from loved ones in spirit with feeling, heart, and grace. Hollister can see and hear spirits as well as get a sense of their personalities and emotions. During the last 25 plus years, her unique abilities have provided comfort and healing to tens of thousands of people worldwide. Hollister's new book, Everything You Wanted to Know About the Afterlife But Were Afraid to Ask, was released in May. Hollister brings her incredible knowledge and experience to this accessible and comprehensive book that takes you on an eye-opening journey into the afterlife. Welcome, Hollister. Thank you for being with us today.
I couldn't be more delighted. Thank you.
Well, this is great. So I've been reading your book, and I really like the question and answer format. That makes it very easy to find those topics that are of interest, or to get back to that section, rather than my technique is I go through and I underline and turn pages to get back to critical sections.
Well, we designed it that way to be sort of interactive, so people could go through the list of questions, see what interested them, sort of target in on those questions, and then be led through the book, if they chose to do that, by subject. So a very organic, almost Google-like experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, you hit on a lot of very nice topics in there. Let's talk about some of those. I liked your distinction. You talk about ghosts versus spirits. I call them earthbounds when I do my clearing work. But can you kind of distinguish between those a little bit so people understand them and sort of what kind of personalities they bring to the party?
Well, many people don't differentiate between ghosts and spirits, and I get that. I do it because it really helps me. I work specifically with spirits at the frequency of love. Ghosts that I've come across, the earthbounds, as you mentioned, are those often attached to a place. They're defending their ground. You know, they don't want to leave, basically. And there's a grievance often attached to it. So I look at ghosts as being sort of defensive, whereas spirits are those who want to make connection out of love.
Okay, that helps. That makes a lot of sense. So how did you get started in this? You know, were you a child? Were you naturally intuitive?
Yeah, I was a kid and didn't think I was different from anyone else. Imagine that. And I'm sure that my experience is not unusual. So I had spirits of people that I recognized, like my grandfather. And then I had other spirits that I didn't know. And so I ran into this stranger danger kind of idea. Oh, who are these people? Some were related to childhood friends. So I connected with a grandmother of my best friend. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, not everybody is seeing what I'm seeing. So I thought, oh, this is really not what I should be doing, especially when I mentioned to my mother, a young man, a boy who came to visit me with my grandfather. I later found out that that young boy was my uncle who died at a very young age due to complications with appendicitis. And that was a subject that was not discussed in my family. So I kind of got the drift. Ooh, this is not something I should be discussing.
Okay. Did you have issues on a religious basis? I don't know what your background is, but were people telling you, you shouldn't be doing this, it's wrong, or those types of things?
Well, I grew up in the church, the Episcopal Church, sang in the choir, was very involved.
My dad was an Episcopal priest.
Yeah. So, and music music automatically connected me to spirits. So during the time I was in the church, I was also doing a lot of writing, poetry, short stories, things like that. And they all had to do with death and spirits.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a Catholic high school, and the nuns called my parents in. They were a little concerned about the topics I was writing about. But nobody said, well, you shouldn't talk about those things, or this isn't real. I think there was always the understanding of another world, because after all, when you're in church, you're talking about a lot of spirits and angels and things like that. And then when I joined the charismatic church, that's when my gifts really began to expand. So I started working with spirit and really started connecting with healing energy. But then it became very clear that what I was doing was specifically connecting with loved ones in spirit. And that became not okay within the group that I was working with. I was in a musical group called Evidence Ministries, where I sang contemporary Christian music. At that point, I moved out to Los Angeles and met up with other mediums, and here we are today.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the charismatic church. What are their views? It sounds like it'd be promising for you to use your gifts, but it sounds like you got a little crosswise.
Well, because I was out in the public singing, the point of difference for me at that moment was improvising music, looking out over an audience and starting to see spirits stand with people in the audience. And after one of these concerts, I went up to a young woman and said, your grandmother knows about the rape. And the girl went completely white and said, how do you know about that? I didn't tell anyone. And her grandmother had passed. I was communicating with her grandmother, and all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, this is not something I can do with freedom. I can't just walk up to people and pass on messages. There has to be a more constructed and constructive way to do this. So I got in contact with someone from my past, and it turns out that he was also a medium, a psychic, and we met up after 12 years of not seeing one another, and it started me moving very heavily into this journey.
Okay. Now, you're a conscious medium. You don't go into trance in any form, and so you relay the information back and forth.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't like giving up my body to the spirits. Yeah. I have done trance work, and I have sat in development circles where we do trance. But I prefer to do mental mediumship, where I am connecting with spirits, but they do use all of my energy centers in my body. So I will feel, I will taste, I will sense, I will smell. So all of my senses are heightened so that they can give the information however they choose.
Now, do you go through the experiences of feeling what somebody died of, say, when they're coming in as part of the validation or the evidence?
Yes and no. So for some spirits, especially those who die in extremely quick ways, things that we may think of traumatic ways, like car accidents or sudden impacts or explosions or things like that, very often the spirit doesn't give me any feeling. I can't describe how it feels to be blown up or how it feels to go through a windshield of a car. Sometimes the spirit will tap my head and I'll know there was a head injury, a sudden head injury, or I'll feel something to my neck, so a neck break. But often those spirits are thrown out of their bodies. There is no conscious pain that the body feels at that moment. So the spirit doesn't give it to me. I find that tremendously comforting in situations where we think people have died in a horrific way, and come to find out they did not physically experience that. There's really a moment of grace, in a sense. And I experienced that personally when someone I loved very, very much fell out of a balcony in France. And I told myself all of these things about his passing. He must have been terrified as he was falling off the balcony. And when he came and sat with a bunch of mediums, friends of mine, and talked to us all, he made it very clear that he watched himself fall. That he was sort of going, well, isn't that interesting? Look at that. There was this idea of detachment from that. Now, other people, there was a young woman who passed with breast cancer. Eventually, I would say. So she fought a good fight, a good fight, a good fight. And she and her mother came to see me as clients. And this girl was such a fighter. She encouraged people in their fight with cancer. She encouraged everybody. She was very upbeat. And so she gave me the sense of her journey through her illness. So in the sense that illness becomes part of someone's story, the spirits will allow me to feel that, sense that, know that. But in situations of immediate death, not so much.
I remember years ago, I read a book where a medium was talking about going to the airport. He got to the airport lounge just very close to boarding time, and he got there and he started looking at all the people, and they all looked two-dimensional. They almost looked like cutouts. And he said, this is not a flight for me. And he made excuses and didn't take the flight, and the flight went down and everybody perished. And so it appeared to him that the souls were already withdrawing from the bodies before they boarded the airplane.
Yes, this is, and I've spoken with numbers of people who have gone down in crashes, whole families, that have gone down. And the report is very much the same. We didn't experience that. So there is a separation.
In your book, you talk about families that die together, children that die together, and they show up together supporting each other. Can you share some of those stories? Because I thought those were really fascinating in your book, that families that pass together will actually show up together.
Well, in that question is actually two questions, because with my book, I have written down questions that people have asked me over the years in events, or have written in and asked questions, or I've pulled questions out of a hat, so to speak, at events. And often questions, and almost all questions in the book, there's a reason that people ask them, and it's often out of fear. And so this question, do we have to be with the people that we love, or can we be with the people that we love? Some people want to be. I remember one woman said to me, I've had 4 husbands. Does that mean I have to spend eternity with all of them? So there might be some people we don't necessarily want to be with. And in one case, 2 young boys showed up and they had been murdered. And they showed up together. But the person who murdered them, who was a relative, was not with them. So that was a great fear of the family, was that these boys would have to be present and face their murderer, who happened to be a relative as well. And that was not the case. Now, what was interesting was a relative, so representative of that side of the family, did show up with remorse and speaking for the family. So there was healing all around.
I love that. I love that. I think that's really awesome, because I think we need that. You also talk a little bit of the question that I hear a lot, because I am a medium and have students, about suicide. What happens when people take their lives, and what are you finding when you do readings with people? Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, suicide has a personal imprint with me, because my family has experienced suicide with my cousin Tommy. So when I first started doing this work in a substantive way, I said to the spirits, I tried to make a deal. I'll do this just don't bring me anybody who's passed with suicide. Just don't want to do that. Well, guess what? All I started getting were people who had passed with suicide. And I found out later through another medium that my cousin Tommy kind of went, oh, we've got to deal with a healing here. And he was bringing all of these people to me. So I had to deal with this, with suicide in a personal way. The questions of, why didn't you talk to me before you did this? Maybe we could have, I was so close to him. Maybe we could have made a change. How could you put a period at the end of the sentence when I was still in the middle of the conversation? So all of these feelings that everybody has when someone passes with suicide, I had. And now I'm a medium connecting people with those who have passed with suicide. So what I would say is, suicide is not the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of another conversation, because those who have passed with suicide, I remember one mother said to her son, why did you do this? And I thought, okay, let me see what answer I get here. And he responded with, would there be any reason good enough? And so the bottom line is, there are no reasons that make sense around suicide, but there is an opportunity for unconditional love. When we love someone, no matter how they have chosen to die, that sets up a level of communication that is very powerful.
Well, and there's another side to it, depending on the family's belief system of what's happened to their family member, because there's a lot of fear that belief system that you're going to go to hell if you do this. And I found that that's not the case. There's healing going on, but they're not sent somewhere where people are fearful of their family members being punished for the choice that they made here, right? And so,
well, and in my book, I do mention a woman. I opened the door to my office one day and there was a woman who said, my son committed suicide. Now, when people come to see me, I don't want to know why they're coming. So the fact that she spit that out, okay. She said, my priest told me that my son and I will be separated for eternity. And I said to her, well, why are you here? And she said, because I want to hear what you have to say. I want a second opinion. And in that moment, that woman demonstrated that she believed in a God who loved her son at least as much as she did, and possibly even more. So her sense of God was far more expansive than what religion had told her God is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important. So what have you seen change in the last few years? Have how you connect, how they come in, have there been changes? Because we talk about how long it'll take to connect, and I see some of those changes happening. It's almost like time is speeding up a little bit on many levels. What changes have you seen over the years from when you started?
Well, huge changes. There's a big arc. And so people see themselves less religious, more spiritual. So that's part of it. Spiritualism, connecting with spirits, being a medium. When I first started, I was really thought to be crazy. Now there are so many of us, well, I don't know, maybe we are all a little crazy, but now people are looking for their own signs from loved ones in spirit. Now people are expecting that a loved one will connect with them. There's an understanding that this can happen maybe even more quickly than we thought. So I have seen spirits die in the morning and connect with me in the afternoon. And that has a lot more to do with the people here on the earth plane than the spirits. I think the spirits are always ready to connect. I have had spirits. There was a young man who died in a car accident on the way to his mother's house. And he had called her and said, Mom, I'll see you in 10 minutes. Well, yeah, he saw her in 10 minutes, but in spirit. He showed up before the police showed up to let her know. He was there, and he described exactly how the conversation went with the police, how she fell on the floor, the whole thing. He was there, and he needed her to know that he was there immediately. So what I'm discovering now is people are more ready to accept that immediate connection.
Well, I think a major part of this, because I see it in so much of my work, because I'm somewhat mediumistic. I do a lot of work with, I just journey in the spiritual realm very smoothly and easily, is the psychology you have, the expectations you have of what the spiritual realm looks like will shape the experience quite a bit. You do create your own reality for a while until finally you learn enough to let go of maybe some very rudimentary ideas about what the spiritual plane looks like you know, oh, I'm going to the pearly gates and the streets are paved with gold and I'm going to be wearing a robe and blah blah blah, and you get there and yeah, it kind of looks that way, and after a while you say, well, what else is there? And they say, well, okay, now that you're over this phase, do you want to move on with your development and start meeting with real teachers and things like that? And I also work with people who if they have no concept of afterlife, they may be very stuck in places because they have no expectation of anything greater. And that can be a very dark and dismal place that they're in.
Yeah, fortunately, because I work at the frequency of love, there's a tremendous amount of love, light, and peace within my connections. You know, I used to do ghost busting. And I had been pushed and pummeled and written on by ghosts and all. And I finally said, you know, this is workplace harassment. I want nothing to do with this.
Yep.
So the people who do ghost busting and heal at that level, more power to you, because that's just not easy work. Connecting at the frequency of love. I really, really like that. There's those higher frequencies. You get to see the broader sense of the afterlife. The angel, higher beings begin to show up. And that's really exciting. And I'm seeing more and more people on this earth plane tuning into those higher frequencies.
Great. Well, we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be right back after a few messages about Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master and Teacher of Angelic Reiki at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you love angels, if you resonate with angels, or you're just interested in learning more about angels, most people really want to consider Angelic Reiki. But you know, Angelic Reiki is more than just working with the angels and learning a new healing modality. It's about ascension. And when you step into Angelic Reiki, you're not only working with angels, but you're working with ascended masters and galactic healers. The angelic kingdom of light, which includes all of those, steps in and helps you be able to hold more light. And what I have found along this journey is it expands your ability to be able to hold light, which raises your frequency, which accelerates your ascension process. So the individuals that step onto Angelic Reiki are really ready to step onto their spiritual path, learn more about angels, ascended masters, galactic healers, learn possibly a new healing modality that they'll use in their life, but also they're ready for those major shifts in their lives to really be on their spiritual path and take their journey to the next level. If you've been thinking about Angelic Reiki, or you'd like to find out more about this beautiful modality, please don't hesitate to contact me, Violet, at discoveryourspiritualgifts.com, or check out our website under classes. You will find Angelic Reiki there with lots of information about this program and the benefits of taking this course. We hope to see you in class really soon, and I hope to see you at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Hi, welcome back to the show. Our guest is Hollister Rand. We're talking about her great new book, Everything You Wanted to Know About the Afterlife But Were Afraid to Ask. It's a recent release, and it's a fascinating book, and Hollister is a very gifted medium. So let's continue. So what are some of the most surprising things that people learn from, especially being in group settings with you, when they ask their questions about the afterlife? What are they most astounded, or, you know, wow, that just, I didn't expect to hear that?
It really depends. One of the things I love about spirit communication is it's very, very personal. So the evidence that's provided, names, dates, hobbies, tattoo descriptions, all of those personal pieces of information make it very clear that a loved one not only has survived, but remembers who they are and remembers what relationship there is. And then what I find tremendously profound is that when someone passes, they are able to view their lives from the viewpoints of everyone they've loved and everyone they've wounded. And sometimes those people are the same people. So you can love a child, yet you wound a child. You can love a spouse, yet wound a spouse in some profound way, and maybe not even realize it because of a belief system. So what begins to happen is all of this stuff falls away and the relationship then can be healed. So there's a restoration in a way that goes beyond anything we can imagine here. So that is a bit of a shock, that a relationship that we think has ended or foundered or could never be healed can be healed. The other thing that I find in groups, which is very exciting, is the level of resonance that happens. So if I have a group of 500 people, let's say, in a ballroom, although during COVID, I'm not doing that. But let's just say in the days pre-COVID, when I had a large group, or on Zoom, when I have a large group and I'm sort of scrolling through all the faces on Zoom, the spirits will highlight certain people I will come to. I don't choose the people in the group. Well, what will happen is one very personal reading will bring healing to a number of people within the group, because the spirits will get the biggest bang for the amount of time that we have together. They will choose the people whose messages will bring resolution and hope to the greatest amount of people. When I see that happening, that is so exciting. I'm like, wow, let's be very clear. This isn't the Hollister Rand show. This is the Spirit Show.
How do they get highlighted on Zoom? I'm very curious. I mean, do the spirits get into the technology and make people light up? I mean, what's that look like?
This is the coolest thing. First of all, spirits love technology. Let's be really, they're light years ahead of us. I mean, I have spirits calling people on their cell phones, or, randomly shuffling pictures for certain dates on their computer. The spirits are involved with technology. And pre-COVID, about 2.5 years before COVID hit, I said to my assistant, I want to get really good at being online. I want to start having online events. And I thought, that's ridiculous. I'm having a book come out. I know I'm going to have to be on the ground running, getting on a plane, going here, there, and everywhere. Well, guess what? Here we are. So on Zoom, the way the spirits will move me either almost like bingo, down diagonally or across. And sometimes I will see a spirit in someone's box, and then the spirit will show up outside of my computer in my office. So I'm seeing almost two of them. I'm like, okay, so this is now the person. Sometimes people will light up on the screen. I mean, I will see rainbow colors around someone, like, that's the next person. So yeah, they highlight the person. It's like spirit takes a big highlighter and goes, this one. It's really fun. I love it.
This sounds like Hollywood Squares.
It is. I say that. I say it's a bit like Hollywood Squares, but, the younger generation doesn't necessarily know Hollywood Squares, even though I think there's kind of a newer version of it out there. But yeah, in a sense, it really is almost like bingo, in that the energy runs along meridians on the screen. So it'll go diagonally, it'll go across, and then if I flip the screen to the next thing, the energy will continue, and I'll just follow it till it stops at the place I need to go. It is really, I love what Spirit's showing us. I love this because what it lets me know is I was getting keyed in to what would be required during this time. So in a sense, we have all been prepared for what is here. And I think it's important to note that nobody dies alone, that there is always a spirit and a loving presence available to everyone as they pass.
When you talk about that, sorry, Dave, as you talk about that, does families show up as a person is ready to transition? Are there folks there to assist them in the process of transitioning? Because I know,
yes, as I discuss in the book, one of the most interesting sessions around this subject, there was a man dying, and his wife would walk into his room, and he kept staring up in a corner of the room. And she said to herself, I hope he's seeing his mother. That's what she kept telling herself. His daughters would come in. He could barely take his eyes off that spot in the room, even when someone entered. Well, when I had a session with this woman, he and his mother, her husband and his mother, her mother-in-law, came through together. They showed up together. And her husband said, yes, my mother was there in the room as I was getting ready to leave. She kept saying, okay, we can go now. Let's go now. And that spot up near the ceiling, or right on the ceiling in the corner of the room, is now discolored. Like the paint color changed. And they've never painted over it because they see that almost as emblematic of the mother having been there. Now, why exactly the paint color changed, I don't know. But I do know that spirits heat me up. Like there's often a lot of heat around a spirit presence. Or when I used to work with ghosts, things would get really cold. I mean, I'd have to bundle up. So with these fluctuations in heat and all of that kind of thing, I think it discolored the paint where the spirit was concentrating energy.
Well, you also have a few stories about people that are in comas or not totally awake that come to you as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I found that really fascinating, that I've seen that as well in my
Well,
work.
I'm glad you found it fascinating because I found it terrifying when it first happened. The first incident that I remember, I was doing a session with a lady. Her mother showed up beautifully dressed, impeccably dressed, gorgeous hair, a dress with a fabric belt that matched the dress. I mean, this woman was perfection. And we had an amazing visit. And the visit went on for, I think, like 50 minutes. And then at the end, I said, do you have any questions, anything you'd like me to ask? And the sitter said, well, yeah, I'm just wondering, my mother isn't dead. Well, I was floored. I didn't even know what to make of that. And then I heard in my ear, Alzheimer's. And I said, does your mother have Alzheimer's? And the woman said, yes, she does. She's had Alzheimer's for 8 years. And all I've wanted is one more conversation with her. And I thought, wow, I have just been talking to someone with Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time it happened. Now I'm like, oh, yeah, this is old hat. Now that I don't advertise that I talk to people, although now all of a sudden I'm mentioning it here with you guys, but I don't advertise that that's what I do because, and I'll give you an example. I was doing a large group in, I think it was a banquet hall kind of a situation. And I came to a woman and her mother spoke. Her mother was in a coma currently. And the question that the daughter had is, Mom, why aren't you going? Why aren't you dying? Why are you staying here? And the mother made it very clear that part of the reason of her body remaining where it was so that the family could deal with issues that it hadn't dealt with up to this point. So her presence, her physical presence was causing the family to talk about issues that they had not addressed. So what I would say is no matter what is going on, Spirit is always pointing toward healing. even in situations that look very wrong to us. Like even in situations where we think that should not happen. Always know that the spirits are turning it toward healing. Every situation, every circumstance is moving us toward healing if we're willing to be turned.
Well, something I tell so many people is, I said, there's nothing random about any death. I mean, every death is part of a script, is part of a plan, whether it's a murder, an accident, suicide, somebody just passing in the middle of the night. They don't happen by random or chance.
Yeah, I have yet to meet it. The spirits do not use the word victim with me, which has always been very intriguing. I even was speaking with a mother once saying, your boy was a victim of a drive-by shooting, and the spirit stopped me. And I said, wait a minute. Your son refuses to allow me to use the word victim. I had to do a, let me just rewind that. So I have been brought up short by spirits at the frequency of love. Now, ghosts, on the other hand, we were talking about ghosts. Ghosts, on the other hand, do feel very victimized, by the way, and will often have a list of complaints. I was thinking about the ghost spirit thing, and I'm wondering if it would be okay for me to just read the little summation that I had about ghosts and spirits at the end of one of the chapters. Is that okay with you? All right, so, because this, I think, sums it up. Ghosts are attached to places on earth. Spirits remain connected to loved ones. So that was one of the things I was talking about. Ghosts can be demanding. Spirits are respectful. Ghosts hang on to grievances and anger. Spirits take responsibility for their actions. Ghosts are resistant to change. Spirits are willing to share their own transformation and encourage healing in others. Ghosts are energized by fear. Spirits are powered by love. So Dave, does that make sense to you? And does that track with a lot of your experience?
Oh yeah, I do a lot of clearing work, but ever since I started it and I was led on that path, I do it all remotely because I don't have any desire to see phenomena or to be around these things or to give them a chance to attach to me. And
exactly.
so yes. I do it all remotely, and I really I try to contain myself around some of these people who want to kind of put ghosts on display, on tours and things. To me, that's like taking people to a mental institution and putting people on display. They don't know who or what they are, and they're not on their path. And,
exactly.
So every chance I get, without violating other people's boundaries, and I'll move people into the spiritual plane. I see no valid reason for earthbound spirits or ghosts to remain here. There's just none.
Exactly. I went to Jerome, Arizona with another medium friend of mine, and we were looking we wanted to go to the galleries, a wine tasting, see an old mining town. I love old mining towns. I might have had a life in a mining town, so we were looking at that, but there were so many ghosts in Jerome. And then we saw a placard which said, most haunted town in America. I'm like, oh my God, they're advertising. Every disgruntled, being in the universe will want to come here. Yeah, we're all here together. I thought, oh my goodness, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah, I've been there once.
Impressive.
I've been there once. I didn't feel good there, and some friends of mine have bought souvenirs there that have somebody's deliberately put some very dark energy on them that's followed them. And so I kind of suggest to people to skip Jerome when they go to Sedona.
Yeah, it's just not fun and games. We are talking about serious things. Knowing that spirits are loved ones and wanting to make connection, and knowing that ghosts are people in pain needing to be brought to healing and brought to the light. This is serious stuff, because with my work with connection with spirits, the pain is sitting with the people here on the earth plane. They are suffering the pain, the missing, the grievance, the loss. With ghosts, the ghosts are the ones with the pain. And the people who want to come visit them are often, treating them as, like it's a zoo or something.
Yeah.
So, so there's pain on each side of the equation, depending on where you're working. But we as light workers always want to bring healing to that pain and allowing people to let it go, whether they are in spirit as a ghost or whether they are here on the earth plane as a grief, as someone who's dealing with grief.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. I think that's so important, is to understand, healing is something that's so important. And when we can step in, and I don't think healing's ever done. I think we always have lots more to heal, whether it's ours, our families, our friends, people around us, this planet. There's a lot of healing to be done here. And it's those people doing that work are really special, and people really need it here. And those grieving, they just want answers most of the time. They just want to know that their loved ones are okay, that things are okay. And that really does help. So I love seeing that. So you talk about your galleries. What things do you offer today if people wanted to come and do some of that? You talked about Zoom. Are you offering things on Zoom where people can attend?
Yes. I do spirit circles. Spirit circles are very small groups where everybody gets a message. I used to do 10 in my conference room at my office. Now I do 5 on Zoom, because this way we can concentrate the energy. Everybody gets a message, and that's a group setting. I do private sessions on Zoom and by phone as well. So if people don't want me to see them, that's fine. I don't have to see them. We could just do a phone conversation. Or some people don't feel confident with working with a computer. That's fine. The spirits don't care. They just want to connect. So by Zoom or phone. I also have some classes online, and I will be teaching more intense classes next year online. So I have a lot of offerings for people.
So what type of classes are you teaching?
Well, in the new year, I'm putting together a Get in Touch with Spirits campaign. So, starting the new year with spirit, how to create your life with spirit, all of that kind of thing moving forward into 2021. But the classes I have right now are very simple things. How to get in touch with your loved ones, how to know when a spirit is around you, a spirit FOMO, fear of missing out. Am I missing out on messages that I'm receiving? So these little classes, and they're super inexpensive, like $10 a class, how to get connected with loved ones and spirits. So you can go to my website at hollisterrand.com and see all of the offerings. Plus I have a free email newsletter every month where I give hints or thoughts around how to get connected, or share stories that have come up in readings that might apply to more than one person. So there's a lot that's out there that I'm offering for people.
I love that. And we'll definitely share it with our community. There, lots of people are looking for online stuff. And there's some people that want to do in person, they want to connect. So we've got them all over the board. So we're trying to be open to people doing that. I really enjoyed your book. I have to say, I absolutely love it. And we do have it at DYSG in our store. So those that are local to Denver, please stop by and pick up your copy at the store. And if you're ever down in Denver, Littleton, when COVID disappears and comes, we would love to have you do a book signing or appearance at our center and come and see us.
I would be delighted, because Colorado has always been on my list. I don't know how we've missed each other. So yeah, I'd be happy to come.
Well, we would love to have you. My husband and I love to host guests at our home and pick them up at the airport and try to make it as easy as possible so that they can visit Denver. And we like to, host them and show them around. So we would love to be able to do that. So when COVID lifts and you're ready to travel, let us know. We'll work something out.
Wonderful.
Mr.
I'd
Dave,
love that.
do you have any final questions?
Yeah, we're coming up to Veterans Day, and you had a section in there on soldiers keeping their psychology and their point of view as a soldier in the afterlife. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, it depends on the people that I'm speaking with. One of the most interesting and mind-boggling connections was with a family in Colorado, by the way. And it was a mother whose son had been killed in action, and the entire family came together for a spirit circle. What I didn't know was that later that day, they were having an honor for all of these young men who had passed, young men and women. And the son in spirit kept saying, I think it was Tom or John, kept saying a name that nobody knew. Well, it turned out that when this family showed up for this memorial, the person to take care of them was the person by that name. Their son in spirit had already known or knew who was going to be taking care of his family. Mm-hmm. And it was, Semper Fi all the way. We take care of our own. So, man, I just got chills with that as I was saying that. I will see soldiers in spirit taking care of soldiers here on the earth plane. There was also a situation where two people showed up in a circle, and one was a woman who helped veterans deal with PTSD. And the other was a mother whose son had died from suicide. Well, what was interesting was the psychotherapist had also recently had a man who died due to suicide. Mm-hmm. Now, he was a veteran of Vietnam, and the young man was a recent veteran. The two of them were standing together. These two people were just meeting in the circle. And yet I do think they were brought together by their spirits, who then went on to help others as well. So that's the way it works. There's a network. We take care of our own.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Well, we want to thank you again for being on the show. Your website is Hollister, HOLLISTER, Rand, RAND.com. I assume that people can find everything they need to know about you there. And
absolutely.
And again, the book, great title, Everything You Want to Know About the Afterlife, with a star, but we're afraid to ask, again, by Hollister. So fantastic book. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you.
And for all our listeners, thank you for joining us today. And please stay with us for messages from several of our practitioners at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
I am Deborah Peter. I am a craniosacral therapist. I had a career in accounting and finance for 20 years and had an opportunity to change pathways and decided to pursue a career in massage therapy because I was fascinated with the body. And that career in massage therapy then led me to craniosacral therapy. Craniosacral therapy is a body work modality that works with the nervous system and is beneficial for anything that the nervous system plays a part in. That includes trauma, any tension patterns in the body that are being held by the muscles or the fascia, headaches, chronic pain, or any pain that the medical community has not been able to find a reason for. So basically anything that the nervous system has a part in. A session is often generally 60 to 90 minutes long. The person relaxes on a massage table, fully clothed. The session can sometimes involve dialoguing, or the person is just able to go into a deeply relaxed state. The therapist, myself, looks for tension patterns and feels for tension patterns in the body and looks to help the body release those tension patterns. In this world, we're often in a state of fight or flight, and this work helps bring the body down into more of a rest and digest space which is really where healing happens, because the body has its own way of healing, and I'm there to support the person in their process of releasing restrictions and tension patterns and emotions that are often held in the body and limiting their ability to fully engage in the world. I'm available Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I have offices in Inglewood as well as Littleton here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can reach me at my website at harmonyridgemassage.com, or you can give me a call at 303-725-5800. I also offer a 20-minute free consultation over the phone if anybody's interested in more information or to find out if craniosacral therapy could help them with anything that they're dealing with. I look forward to working with you.
Hi, my name is Heather Nichols. I'm a soul journey coach and the owner of Soulful Essence and Wellbeing. For the past several years, I've been on a quest to fulfill my full purpose of healing my past so I may learn to love myself unconditionally. I want to show others how they can do the same thing for themselves. My journey officially began in 2015. I became a Reiki master teacher to be a conduit of healing for myself and others. And I've always had an interest in hypnosis and self-development. And I finally stepped forward in my passion and found a program that helped me release negative emotions that were keeping me stuck in my past. I became a certified practitioner in this wonderful program and later studied Akashic records and many other healing modalities. Why it's important to forgive ourselves and others. Then it's time to release. And we'll use time techniques to release anger and sadness, a guided meditation to release additional negative emotions. You can also register on my website at Soulful Essence, the letter N, wellbeing.com/classes.
Hi, my name is Christina Morris. I am the founder and president of Balance and Bliss Energy Healing. I'm a medical intuitive and high vibrational healer. I work with the energy fields. My scope of practice is energy medicine. Anything above and beyond that, for outside care, we'll need to refer you out there. But I do use crystals and aromatherapy in my healings. And I help manage pain. We help move some of the pain out of the body that might be coming from stagnant energy within the field, as well as, we get to the root of the problem with, any emotional trauma and find out what's going on that could be causing more stagnant energy to be left in your aura, which in turn can cause illness and pain and a lot of other issues that we tend to see throughout our day-to-day lives. And then I can be reached by appointment. You can make appointments anytime, any day of the week. I do work Monday through Friday in the evenings from about 5:30 to 8:30. Your first session can be about an hour and a half because we get to know one another. We kind of go through what's going on. And then any session thereafter would run about 50 minutes to an hour. And I can be reached through my website at balanceandblissenergyhealing.com. My email is balanceandblissenergyhealing@gmail.com. And I can also be reached via phone or text at 720-696-0286. And I look forward to any, potential clients. If you have any referrals or if you are in need of any of my services, I look forward to working with you.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.